owned it. I screwed up. I messed up. Erik joins us every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. For some reason, I had Ed and Cena's Thursday time, 1:30 in my brain. And I was like, you know, it's funny. Before the show today, I was just chilling. I was like, man, I got everything. The Liam Cohen situation, we're good. I got nothing to worry about. And then at 12:59, I saw your face and I go, the one thing that I didn't do is double check the times. It's just the way it goes, man. So I apologize for that, my friend.
No worries. It's a good thing I like you, Jay. Let's just say that.
You like me a lot more than the Lightning like playing north of the border. Holy shit, what's going on? You know, you watch these games and the Tampa Bay findaways. I heard a lot of people on social media last night like, what happened to the Tampa Bay findaways? What is up with it? Is it just divisionally? Because it just seems like in years past, and maybe we're jaded because of the run that they had during the Stanley Cup years, they always found a way to win. They always found a way to get the 2 points. And it just seems like there's so many games now this year and last year where they get, you know, it's 2-2 and they give up a goal with 2 minutes left. And then, you know, they didn't give up the empty netter last night, but then they give up an empty netter and you're like, what the hell happened? Like, it was another chapter in that book last night.
Let me tell you, they're finding a way just not to win games. They're finding ways to lose games. And I think the thing that has to be bothersome, we can point out that probably 99 out of 100 times the Lightning win that game last night in Montreal, especially the way they came out in the third period. They came out in the third period to win a game. And that's the attitude you like to see. Sure, they blew the 2-0 lead in the second period. That happened. San Jose lost a 5-1 lead last night to Nashville and lost the game 7-5. I know it's San Jose, but it happens in this league.
Montreal, didn't they blow a 3-0 lead to
Yeah, they
Toronto?
were up 3-0 on Toronto and gave up 7 straight. They lost 7-3. So these things happen in the NHL. There's good players on the other team, and they want to win the game as well. And that was a key game for Montreal. They're trying to climb up the standings, and the Lightning were a team that's in front of them. So they had some emphasis on that game, and the Lightning were the better team in terms of the way the game was played. So you can say that Sam Montembeault stole that game from Montreal, and you would be correct because in the third period, he was tremendous. But I think what has to be bothersome is the way in which the Lightning gave up the game-winning goal. It's an offensive zone draw. That's where the play starts. And it should have been a nothing play. Like it should never have resulted in the game-winning goal. And then you look at, like if people go to my website, I've got 3 freeze-frame pictures from the game last night and where 4 Tampa Bay players are at and where Jake Evans is coming from. 4 guys are basically on the same sort of sliver of the ice, not necessarily in a line, but they're all within basically the same 7 to 8 foot area watching the puck. They're not looking at Jake Evans behind them, and they give up a wide open one-timer opportunity, and that's happened too much. Monday's game in Toronto was the same situation. The goal that Matthew Nye scored with 20 seconds to go in the second period that turned a 2-1 deficit into a 3-1 deficit. 5 guys are watching the puck, and nobody's watching Matthew Nye skate right past them down in the lower area where Mitch Marner finds him. That has to be the thing that's concerning. So we can talk about offense and the lack of scoring, and sure, if they'd have scored early in the third period, we're not talking about this in the way that we are. But the fact is, when you're not scoring and if things aren't going for you, offensively in a game like that, you got to be better defensively. And that goal last night, hopefully that's a tipping point to kind of turn things around because it's happened too often this year that there's too much puck watching. There's too much of players in one area of the ice and not paying attention to the danger. I mean, you know, I do the post-game show with Chief and, you know, we talk about it all the time.
Oh, yeah,
the most dangerous player is not usually the guy with the puck. It's coming from somewhere else. And if you can't recognize that, all it takes is a simple head check. Jay, I used this analogy with Chief on the show last night. Watch Lionel Messi on the pitch. His head is always moving, always constant, back and forth. What's going on? What's going on around me? Who's near me? What can I do if I get the ball here? Where's the danger coming from defensively? That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And they continue to just kind of find ways to just get mesmerized by the puck. And it's costing them games. They would be a lot closer to the top of the Atlantic Division if they were pulling points out of games like last night. And too many times they've given them away this year because of just mental defensive lapses.
Yeah, it's funny because you actually see Nikita Kucherov do that before he passes the puck. He scans the scene, he kind of looks around, he surveys everything, and then when he gets the puck, he doesn't even have to look where he's passing the puck to. Is that a individual thing? Is that on the players, or is that on the structure of the team as a whole? Because I don't know, I sit next to Chief in the press box, and he's always like, look at the puck in the corner. Nobody's by that guy. Nobody's by that guy. Nobody's by that guy. And I think if you're doing this time and time again, like, I don't know if it's just the players saying, I mean, these are professional athletes. Like, you don't get to, like it's got to be something that the structure's got to change a little bit then too, right? Because I don't want to say they're coached to ignore guys, but it just seems like there's pucks in the corner. And I remember growing up, if I was the off defenseman or I was the off winger and the puck was in, like, let's say the left corner, if I'm the right D, I'm like, all right, I'm close to you, but I'm not leaving the front of the net. But for this team, it seems like everybody goes to the puck and then they adjust to when the puck comes out of there, and it's biting them in the ass.
Not to sound political here, I think it's both.
Okay.
It's obvious when you see that many guys trying to surround the puck, you know that they're taught to do that, but that doesn't preclude you from being aware of what's around you, because the other guy that you're probably trying to get the puck away from, he's a National Hockey League player too.
Right.
There's a chance he can make a play.
There is.
Right?
And that's
and if he makes a play, there's somebody wide open because you've got all five guys too close to the puck in a surrounding area, and you're leaving your goalie out to dry. So I think part of the system is surround the puck. And then, but also the players still have to be aware that you can't tell me the coaches are saying, just look at the puck. I mean, the play, again, I referenced it, the Nyes goal at the end of the second period on Monday, five guys, probably within a 6-foot square radius, their heads are all focused on one area. Why do you need five guys focused on just the puck? You can't tell me that the heads have to be there. Okay, fine. You're trying to surround the puck. If you're taught that, that's the way the coaches want them to do it. But you can't tell me they're all of them are told, everybody look at the puck and try and win it back. Don't worry about the guy skating behind you all alone in front of your goaltender.
Yeah, I just think it's really ironic that, and it seems like by that rationale that the idea is if you outnumber the guys in the corner, let's say, if you have more sticks in there, more guys in there, you have more of a chance to come out with the puck, right? I get that if that's what the rationale is. But we see elite players in this league, the Lightning have a couple of them, where they go 1-on-3 and they come out with the puck. Hell, that's one of the great things I think Jake Gensel does, the puck retrieval, right? Alex Gorin did a great job with that, where, he would go in the corner and come out against two defensemen. Because if that's the case, when you're winning 1-on-2, you got to figure you're 4-on-3 on the rest of the ice. So I just worry about that lack of adjustment when it comes to the Lightning defense, because when you look at their goal differential and you look at their offense, I don't care. You got to be able to win games 2-1. And the defensive last night, and I know people, I want to ask you about this guy. People are crushing a guy like Emil Lilleberg, and I think on that last goal too, he was way too soft on the puck carrier. So some big hits last night from Max Crozier. Darren Radish had one, but man, the defensemen themselves, they got to play better too.
Well, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's usually the Lilleberg-Perbix pair that ends up being on the ice for these situations. Not always, but they seem to be. And again, that was the case last night on the game-winning goal, where Lilleberg steps up at the red line trying to pinch off the play, and then the puck kind of squirts free right inside the blue line, and the only guy who could locate it was Joel Armida. But Nick Perbix, seeing that, decides that he needs to move over towards the boards as well. Like, why is he floating over to the boards? If he stays more centralized, there's a good chance that pass doesn't get through.
Right.
And even if it does, he's there to challenge it in some capacity, get a stick on it. Maybe he's got a body in front, not give Evans a clean look on a one-timer situation from the high slot. So, you have to be harder on the puck. You have to be aware of what your defensive partner's doing. Even Again, just because I'm so mesmerized by how bad the Nyes goal was the other night, Ryan McDonough floats across to try and disrupt the play on Austin Matthews right as he hits the blue line. Now all of a sudden he can't get there. He doesn't disrupt the play, and he's put his defensive partner out of position, which was Darren Radish at that time, late in the period. So Radish doesn't read that and come underneath of him and support that other side of the ice. I mean, those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. It's just awareness of the situation. And what has to be maddening is these are correctable situations. At least they should be, right? They should be easily correctable. Now, having said all that, I don't know how many practice days the team has had this month, and it's not necessarily an excuse, but sometimes you need to be on the ice in a practice situation, not a morning skate on the day of a game, but in a practice to kind of reset some of the habits, right? And I think I counted it up. We've referenced how difficult this stretch is. The 2 games coming up this weekend are going to be 16 games on 29 days for Tampa Bay. They'll practice tomorrow. They've had 2 full days off at home without having to have travel or a game or be on the road. So 2 days, good friend Tom Jones used to say, a day off for me is when I wake up in my own bed and I go to sleep in my own bed and I don't do anything in between. That's a day off, not getting off a plane at 2:00 in the afternoon or anything like that. So the Lightning have only had 2 of those days at home. It's different when you're on the road, you're in a hotel. Sure, you're not at the rink, you're not thinking about the game, but you're not with your family. You're with your hockey family, but you're not with your family. And I think that factors into some mental breakdowns, and they need a mental reset. So hopefully this practice coming up tomorrow before they face the Blackhawks on Friday kind of gets that reset, because as I always say, if us schmucks can recognize what's going on, the coach, the coaches know what's going on.
What'd you think about Eyssimont playing with Gensel and Point?
He's a spark plug.
Yeah.
Right. He's not a 20-goal scorer, but he's a spark plug. He's a forechecker.
He might be. If you play with those guys for 80 games, he might score 20 goals.
I thought he looked okay in that spot.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously,
he can keep up with them speed wise.
He can skate. Yeah. And obviously he set up the play for Gensel's goal that made it 2-0 as he took it around and do a wraparound. He had a similar play in the third period that Jake just had to corral the puck before he could get it on net and allow Montembeault to kind of get in position, and Jake couldn't finish off that play. He's the one thing we've said about Eyssimont here probably in the last month or so is you notice him, right? He's in on the forecheck. He's being the agitator that he can be, because he can get under the skin of the opponents. Everybody wants to kill Mikey Eyssimont. Sometimes I don't understand why, but so he must be doing something on the ice and saying stuff out on the ice to kind of get under guys' skin. But he showed that he can, when he's, if he has to pinch in an elevated role, that he can fill in that role. I don't know if he's a permanent solution to that. I still think, as we've talked about, a middle 6 forward, if we're talking trade deadline situations, is somewhere the Lightning need to address, because you can see it. They keep rotating that 6th winger, that 6th forward in the top 6. Lots of guys have had opportunities and looks there. So they need to solve that issue. And at least for one night, Mikey Eyssimont was the answer.
Yeah, and the big question we've had over the last couple of days is the decision that Jon Cooper made by not having Andrei Vasilevsky going up against Toronto and playing him against Montreal. We may not always know the method to the madness. I know we've had this conversation in the past where Coop usually likes to play Vasi against the weaker team, right? Usually the team with the lower
depends on the schedule,
but it depends on the schedule. How long in advance do they make that decision that Vasi's playing against Montreal against Toronto, rather than Toronto?
I'm sure they would have made it on the plane up to Toronto Sunday. That's probably when they made that decision. And, Vasi's had a couple of rough starts against the Leafs this year. Johansson was going to get one of the games. And sometimes the prevailing thought in hockey is you use your number one against the, whether you want to say the perceived weaker team or the team you feel you need to have the points more against. And I think that probably factored into this decision as well. Curious to see how it goes this weekend because
Right.
you've got Chicago on Friday, and then you end the trip with another divisional game in Detroit, another team that's trying to push from behind. Who gets to start in what situations
What do
there.
you think?
My guess is Johansson goes Friday, and Vazzy goes on Saturday because it's a Western Conference opponent versus an Eastern Conference opponent, and divisional game, all that stuff that factors into it. And then we're going to get kind of back to a somewhat normal schedule for the team as they'll start playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday situations, leading up until the Four Nations break. But yeah, it is always curious how coaching staffs tap into these decisions. Usually the backup, quote unquote, gets the second half and you hope he can steal it. But I think the opponent matters. And I think that the circumstances matter. And if I had no problem with Johansson going in there, he's played well. Really, since his first couple of starts were kind of a little shaky, he's kind of stabilized. I thought he was pretty good against Toronto, even though he let in the 4. I thought that he did his job to give his team a chance to be in that game. Defense let him down, and I thought Vazzy. I didn't like the Slavkovsky goal last night. He's not square. He doesn't seal the post. That's not a goal.
Yeah.
We usually let and kind of gave Montreal some momentum because they surged after that and got the tying goal before the Lightning kind of settled themselves down. But I thought he was fine. He made some of the stops he was supposed to and, gave his team a chance to win. And again, like I said, 99 out of 100 times, we're not talking about that defensive lapse, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this is a kind of a little bit of a slap in reality to you can't get frustrated if pucks are not going in for you because the one thing you can control is how hard you play, and that includes on defense. And as hard as they played on offense, I don't think they played well enough on defense to get a result they probably deserved.
What did you think about the play of Max Crozier over the last couple of games? And when Cernak is coming back, where do you see the future of those right-handed shot defensemen? Because I don't think Chernak's going anywhere, but it's got to come down to Crozier, Radish, Perbix. They like Radish. You see him chipping in offensively too with a couple of absolute laser beams. Where does Max Crozier fit into this? Because I think he plays a little bit of a heavier game. I feel like Lilleberg will probably play a little bit better with him there. What do you see as far as his future, Nick Perbix, and those right-handed shot defensemen?
Well, they like Crozier. There's no doubt. I think. Now, he missed some time in Syracuse this year with injury, but I think him spending most of the year in Syracuse has been a business-related decision. I don't think it's been personnel. And, meritocracy is supposed to rule the day, but sometimes business side trumps it because, they're trying to save as much salary cap space as possible.
Right.
They're trying to create space that they really haven't had the past couple of years because they've been in LTI, and LTI is a very convoluted, difficult situation for teams to kind of have to work their way through. And they're trying to stay away from that this year. So by keeping just the 7 defensemen all year and just the 1 extra forward, and even with Moser being out, they have not called up another defenseman to even have a 7th guy around because they're trying to utilize the opportunity to create cap space. Having said that, watching Crozier these last 3 games, you keep asking yourself, why is this guy not in the lineup on a regular basis? Because it's still a small sample size, but you've liked the sample that you've seen, going back to the tail end of last year and, his brief appearance in the playoffs. He didn't start that series against Florida. Maybe he should have. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but maybe he should have based on the way he played. So when Cernak gets back, we'll see. I would have to think I know you've only got about 7 or so games once the team gets back from this trip before the Four Nations break, that they don't give him a longer look to be a guy that can, because he plays very well with Emil Lilleberg. He plays. They've got such good chemistry. It's going back to last year in Syracuse, and even when they came up. When Crozier came up last year and played, it was primarily with Lilleberg, and they were a pretty good bottom pairing because it has been the bottom pairing that's hurt this team this year. Like I just mentioned, it seems like most of the situations that end up in bad results tend to be with the bottom pairing on the ice. So I would like to see Crozier get a longer look, sit Nick Perbix, and give Crozier a look along with Lilleberg once Chernak gets back, because I like the top four, not crazy about the bottom pair, and that has to improve. And if Crozier can improve it, I think you have to do it.
Yeah, and I wonder how that would go, like when Moser comes back, right? Hedman, Moser, McDonough, Chernak, and then you kind of have, 4 guys for 2 spots, right?
Or you go 11-7, which
right.
they've done a few times this year, which easily they could do, because Radich is on the number 1 power play unit right now.
Yeah, you're not taking him out, so he's one of those guys. Yeah,
right. It's a good question. It's a dilemma that you like to have.
Especially because you need another forward too, so you can rotate Kucherov, or keeping that guy fresh, especially on the road. That helps keep him away from the big matchups. Yeah, 11-7 until you make a move. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But we're definitely going to talk about that as the year goes on. The one and only Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. That's Erik_Erlendsson on Twitter/X. It's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D. Use that promo code JNZ. Sign up for lightninginsider.com today. Get $10 off. Not just this season, but every recurring season after that. And we'll go from there. Next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Erik will be joining us, and I will not make that mistake again. Yeah. Sorry about that, my friend. Thank you again.
Hey. No worries. Normally, I would have seen it, but days after losses, I usually try and stay away from my Twitter comments because it's a toxic environment. So I didn't catch it in my Twitter feed.
Oh, that's right. I did put it on my Twitter, so it's your fault then.
No. I absolve myself from any responsibility here.
I 25% absolve myself from blame too. Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, bud. Be well.
All right, man. Good.